Hello, my name is Nathaniel Beer, and I would like to thank you for taking the time to review my presentation on genetic engineering in humans from my home during this quarantine. Alright, now, you may have seen the topic of genetic engineering in humans or animals or crops recently in the news. Well, maybe not recently with all that's going on. However, that does not mean that you should expel the topic from your mind. I hope that with my presentation today, I will address all the pros and cons that come with genetic engineering and get you thinking about the topic again, or maybe introduce you to the topic. First, we need a brief background on genetic engineering. Now, you may be asking yourself right now, what exactly is genetic engineering? David M. Bondine, PhD, defines genetic engineering as, quote, the process of using recombinant DNA technology to alter the genetic makeup of an organism. Humans first began a form of genetic engineering, although unintentionally, through selective breeding of animals and keeping the offspring with desirable traits. That developed into the first stage of lab-controlled genetic engineering, which was simply cloning a very small portion of DNA and then injecting and growing that DNA in bacteria. Research and lab experimentation has developed into the genetic engineering techniques that we have today, including transcription-activated like effector nucleases, or TALENs, zinc finger nucleases, or ZFNs, microRNAs, small interfering RNA, and the latest CRISPR and Cas9 technologies. These technologies are by far the most advanced and effective, and present the most feasible option for clinical applications. These potential clinical applications are what has sparked the debate surrounding genetic engineering and all the pros and cons that come with it. Let's begin with the cons. Because of the lack of research, most of the criticism and consequences are speculatory that come with genetic engineering. However, one of the valid criticisms of genetic engineering in humans to combat genetic diseases is unnecessary because we already have other options for people to have children without risking passing the genetic disease down. As the director of the Center for Genetics and Society, Marcy Darnofsky, PhD, points out, parents can use third-party eggs or sperm to eliminate the risk of passing down their genetic disease, or use the widely available procedure for screening embryos called pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. Another argument against genetic engineering, although not scientifically validated, is that the long-term effects may do more harm than good. These concerns begin at the fact that altering the genome of someone will permanently change the DNA for generations to come. Other concerns stem from that there may not be a way to prevent unwanted effects of the engineering, resulting in unintended genes being modified. There is no research on the interaction of altered and unaltered genes, and that genetic engineering undermines genetic diversity and the basic tenet of evolution of natural selection. Ethical concerns have also been raised about genetic engineering. For one, some claim that genetic engineering opposes their religious beliefs and that it all chops up to playing God. Scientists ask that if we open the door to one kind of genetic engineering, will we eventually get to the point that any kind of regulation will be possible? And author Richard Hayes submits that genetic engineering may only amplify already existing discrimination, inequalities, and prejudice. There is also no legitimate legislation on genetic engineering in any country, including the US. So without legislation, opening the door to genetic engineering will potentially be like opening the Pandora's box of genetic engineering. However, there are many important and fathomable benefits to genetic engineering. First off, let's address the argument that genetic engineering is bad because it is, quote, unnatural or opposition to religion. As many scientists point out, including John Harris, professor of science ethics at Manchester University, all modern technology, including antibiotics, are unnatural, and without them millions of people would die. So the idea that genetic engineering is bad simply because it is, quote, unnatural, especially since millions of people already die prematurely from genetic diseases, is laughable. Also, when it comes to religion, Ronald M. Green, professor in the religion department at Dartmouth College, explains that all religions derived from the Bible allow humans to improve on nature through technology. Even branches of religion that oppose the disposal of embryos. with Pope John Paul II in 1982 praising genetic engineering as a way of helping and curing, quote, the smallest and weakest of human beings during their in-uterine life. Many scientists also consider the benefits from genetic engineering as essential clinical applications. 2/3 of human embryos already fail to develop, and 7.9 million children are born every year with a serious birth defect from a genetic origin. Even basic genetic engineering will dramatically reduce these numbers. The most lucrative benefit from genetic engineering is that it can be used to combat numerous diseases. The most obvious diseases that would be repelled by genetic engineering would be inherited genetic diseases like heart disease, the #1 killer in America, as well as one of the most damaging diseases in existence, Alzheimer's disease. Genetic engineering could also be used to cure monogenic diseases such as cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, and Huntington's disease. With genetic engineering, it may also be possible to eliminate acquired diseases like cancer and AIDS. U.S. clinics have also started to use gene therapy to treat HIV and will soon focus on sickle cell diseases. Scientists hope that genetic engineering can also be used to treat mutations in the mitochondria, which there are currently no treatments for. Just as there were some potential ethical concerns with genetic engineering, there are some potential ethical and societal benefits from genetic engineering as well. Professor Ronald M. Green submits that the more we understand about the human genome may lead to a more common human freedom based on an understanding of biological obstacles. Green adds that genetic engineering may also be the key in understanding the causes to conditions that affect a vast percentage of people like obesity and dyslexia. And finally, many experts believe that genetic engineering could lower the class divide and lead to a better future for all of humanity. Some may see genetic engineering in the news and just think it's a not terribly important issue, or dismiss it to the future, or even think it's taken too seriously science fiction. And you may have been one of those people. However, I hope that with my presentation today, I've opened you up to thinking about it once again, because genetic engineering is a deadly serious topic with extraordinary benefits and potentially harmful negatives. And no matter what is thought about genetic engineering, all its pros and cons that come with it, serious action, serious debate, and serious legislation needs to be there to address it before it's too late. I'd like to thank you again for everything.